And speaking of the devil, here he comes.
You talking some shit?
Oh, as always, I never change.
My
So
man.
essentially, I was thinking actually, and we can play. Obviously, you can play also, but I was thinking maybe we can do a quick technique practice. So remember that night? It's probably in your nightmares still, but when I gave up the queen and you tried to beat me,
Yeah, odds game. That sounds good.
I was thinking we should work a little bit on your technique, just not to lose sight of it. Let me challenge you, and this will be another chance to beat a GM, so it's a win-win for you. I'm going to challenge you
Sounds
to a
good.
10-minute game. So you can go e4, and now go knight f3. Whoops. All right.
All right.
Here we go. Tension is palpable.
Yeah, I'm looking for something kind of fat, but I don't think I'm gonna find anything too noteworthy.
And you've found something noteworthy in the form of an extra queen, so you've done all the heavy lifting you really need to do. Now all you need to do is follow principles. And I mean, I might be a GM, but I'm going to try to play tricks on you and unbalance the position, but you always have to go back to like first principles. If you're occupying the center, developing your pieces, defending against threats, stopping my threats, nothing bad is going to happen to you when you have an extra queen.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then I guess another thing I need to work on is just not going too hard when I have a lead and like accidentally making like this fork right here.
So actually it's fine. You only lose one piece, so don't panic. That's basically nothing when I'm down a queen. And I kind of read your mind there. You forgot to ask yourself, why did I play rook to g8? Okay, I'm not your average village 800. When I move my rook to g8, I actually have a point.
Right. So then I guess
now you need to ask yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the play I had in my head that I thought was gonna make a lot of sense was pushing queen over to g4. So if you took one piece, I'd take your rook, but it's protected by knight.
And g4 is protected by the knight.
Yeah.
So
the whole plan wouldn't work because the knight's there. So then I started asking myself how to get the knight off, but I don't really have a good way of doing that.
yeah, so you're going to lose a piece. You have two options. You can at least take out a pawn while you're at it, or you could say this. Okay, I'm going to lose a piece. Thanks for the subs, guys. And you might as well trade as many pieces as you can while you're at it. So if you're going to move your bishop away, for example, could you move it on such a square that you at least get to orchestrate a trade?
Yeah, so I was bringing bishop here.
And I'm going to take your knight, big shit, but you're still up a queen for a piece, so you should still be able to win this game.
Right.
The key word being should.
Will.
Will? Okay, well, we'll see. We will see about that. Yeah, well, okay. Good move. Forcing me to move my king in order to defend the pawn.
Yeah.
Now use your extra queen. I mean, you have an extra queen, use it.
So I guess what I need to start recognizing is the best places for her. So I can't really bring her too deep over here on the GH side because it's all protected by knight. I can't go G4. I can't go G5 or H5. So then the only option left brings me to F3 here.
But that's a great option. It attacks the knight. I don't have too many resources with which to keep my position together. I do have one, which is the rook.
Yeah,
but
let's protect that.
You can you can use your queen to keep tightening the screws. Combine your queen with a knight also. Like, remember that the queen and the knight are a very powerful combination, so you can use them together to attack a lot of pieces at once.
That makes sense. So what do you think of a move like this to look to attack on c7?
Excellent. And you're actually setting up a fork. Not only are you attacking c7, now I have to defend c7 because that pawn I cannot afford to lose, especially with a queen. But I am sending you right in the direction of what other little mofo? Look at the whole board. Don't fall in love with just c7.
Right. I guess I'm just not seeing it because that pawn wasn't defending anything besides the d5, which I can't access since I've moved my knight.
Look elsewhere. You're attacking another pawn. Again, you're tunnel visioning on the center and on the c7 pawn. But look at the king side. There's a pawn that's staring you right in the face, which you can just take. There's literally a pawn you can take right now, free pawn, with your queen.
Alright, so then it's just taking the pieces that are given, which is still the lesson that I need to learn.
Yep, that pawn on h4. Okay. And maybe part of it is still your desire to do more than that. You see a pawn, it's not really too much. I want something more than just a pawn. I don't know how much of a role that plays, not to put words in your mouth.
No, that's something I've said before. Like, when I see just a hanging pawn or something, I'll often just disregard it, looking for like a more advantageous position.
And you're already at the stage where you don't want to do that. Pawns have become a bigger deal than they were when you were, let's say, 700, right? You can actually win a game now just by like taking a bunch of pawns. So, I'm going to make a very tricky move right now. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's going to be very tricky. It creates a threat. And your job is to identify this threat. I'm going to go knight d4 here.
I have an undefended pawn on c2, but I don't think that's the main threat. Checking me at e2 doesn't work. It's protected by my knight.
Okay, correct so far, but you haven't quite seen the threat yet. Monk S. You have much bigger fish to fry than that c2 pawn, let me tell you. Look at that, my rook on g6. What is it accomplishing?
It's threatening my g2 pawn.
Again, it's not threatening it, it's pinning it.
Yeah, holding it.
Right, which means okay. The g2 pawn is immobilized, so what am I actually threatening in this position?
My queen by going to f3.
Very nice, so that is what you need to defend against at all costs.
So, okay, that makes sense.
And you can do that in several ways. You can unpin that pawn. That would be the easiest way. Because that would solve the disease as well as the symptoms. If you just move your queen away, first of all, you have no squares for that queen. Second of all, I could still give you that unpleasant check on f3. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay. So in a situation like that, just unpinning is typically the best
exactly.
the best decision.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is this, one could say, a 6-inch move? I mean, more like a 1-inch move. I mean, but sometimes you have to oil the machine, you know what I'm saying? I don't think you know what I'm saying, but it's fine.
Well, you're making up phrases. I can pick up the context clues, of course.
Well, the high energy sort of alpha people make up phrases. That's just something that's done. Let me go c6. And now you can put into action I think what's becoming one of your favorite plans right now. You need frickin' squares for your pieces. You need to open stuff up in order to exploit that extra queen.
Yeah, which is pushing that pawn on f2 up to free up that file. No, but you have a piece that's hanging. You still have that f7 pawn that's undefended. I could take with a bishop, which threatens rook. Is that not something
shit! I missed that. That's the best move, actually. Oh my god, that's actually the best move. Because if I move my rook, I lose my knight.
Yeah.
God damn.
Okay, so that I thought maybe there was something I was missing on why that's a bad move.
No, I missed it. Yep, I believe it or not, I do miss moves and I lose games.
That's fucking. I honestly cannot even believe that.
Yeah, now I'm fucked completely. If I move my rook, I lose my knight. I'm gonna try to save my knight, but now you can combine a bunch of ideas. If you play the right next couple of moves, you just put me away.
Yeah. Well, so is in this situation, though, I just take this rook. You take with
Yeah.
pawn. I can't put you in check again because it's protected by the knight. Is that still the progression I'd want to look at?
Yeah, first take what's given. Again, take the rook that's given to you and then think again about how you want to open up the position. Revisit some ideas that maybe you had previously.
Okay.
Because again, you have all these extra pieces, but unless files are opened, you're not going to be able to exploit them.
Mm-hmm.
So
then I still just want to free up this file by pushing this pawn up.
yeah, and I'm actually not going to say anything after I take this pawn. I want you to find basically the crushing couple of moves here. And you have several ways to do it.
Yeah, so it's taking with the queen first, and then I can immediately look to threaten.
So
but
you're
then that
forgetting
gives
about
up the
something we
pin.
talked about. What is the queen doing to the knight on f6?
It's pinning it, yeah, so I give it back pin.
Yeah, but what did we specifically mention in regard to pins? What nature are they?
They're temporary.
Which means you need to exploit them as efficiently as possible. And the best way to attack a pinned piece is with what piece?
The pawn. Because,
Bingo.
Oh, that's right.
E5
That's right. That's
wins
right.
the knight. So you see a direct application of pins in a different context. And
Okay.
I'm losing my knight. Now the rest is just a matter of easy mopping up and just taking everything.
Yeah, so there's no reason here why I wouldn't want to just take your knight with my queen, right, for that free check.
Go ahead. Doesn't matter which piece you take it with. You can take it with a pawn. You can take it with a queen. You can take all sorts of free stuff. You can keep checking me. At some point, again, it stops mattering as long as you make sensible moves within like the top 10 choices. You'll be fine.
Okay. So then this is good practice then. So what I immediately looked at was G7 for my queen, deliver a check, take the pawn on G6, take this pawn that's given to me over here on F4 after that, and just go around that way.
Amazing. And actually, you're driving my king to the back rank, so you can deliver essentially. I'm going to try to stop you, but my empire here is crumbling, so go ahead and start taking shit.
Yeah, so delivering this check here is not worth it because then you just get... Well, do I still win that rook? Because you can't protect it once I deliver a check on the back rank.
You can do that too. You can do that too. You're seeing you're seeing a lot of good stuff. See, I'm not used to you noticing that you don't want to take the pawn, you want to win the rook instead. That's tactical progression right there. Remember how often we talked about tunnel vision, like not looking at the pawn, looking at the bigger pieces. Now you're doing that pretty seamlessly.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's starting to feel natural.
For whatever reason, people in my chat are impressed with you here. So.
Well, initially I didn't think I could make that move because I thought you could tuck yourself away onto B8, but I recognized you couldn't do that, so yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so then in a situation like this, I tend to the immediate problem, which is the rook that's being threatened, right? So now I want to just get the rook out.
Yeah, you don't want to just give up pieces for no reason. You could give up that rook and afford it, but no need to just throw around pieces. It's not very good practice in general. Anything coming to mind? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm looking for a way to set up a checkmate, and nothing's coming to mind yet, but maybe that's the wrong way of playing. Maybe I do just want to start snatching pieces and then just play it by ear.
That's exactly the right move, because you notice the queen, you have a knight. Knight and the queen are the fastest path to checkmate. You activate your knight. Great move.
Okay.
Now you want to go in for the kill. Just take what's given and activate that knight of yours. And then once that knight is activated, then you can start slowly looking for ways of delivering checkmate.
So then just following along with what I had in my head,
Yeah,
so taking
go
this
ahead.
pawn on b5.
Bingo. Now you have checkmate in 2 moves, but I don't want you to lose on time, so look for it for 10-15 seconds, but if you don't find it, just keep taking stuff.
Okay.
But I think you'll find it.
Yeah, I think so. It starts with the queen going to b7. That puts in check. That
exactly.
forces the king What did you say?
Yeah, I said exactly. That's
Okay.
right.
All right, I thought you said no.
Well, it would be in my interest to say no, but unfortunately,
Yeah, and then this is
I'm
me.
too nice. Exactly. Nice. Okay, so basically seamless with the exception of that move bishop f4,
Right.
which
gives
was
you
the
a four.
product of a very simple product of just not asking yourself what I wanted with that move rook g8. So remember, when your opponents play a move like rook g8, it's usually because they have no idea what to do. Okay? But it's a good practice to still always suspect that they're up to something. They make a move like rook g8, they move a pawn unobtrusively. Some players actually know how to set traps. So you don't just want to ignore their move and play as if they had not made any move at all. So that's really the only takeaway. Other than that, you played fantastic chess.
Thanks, man.
Now
I appreciate that.
Anime Girl says, now Charlie's ready to take on Hikaru, basically. Yep.
I'm getting there. I mean, I did exploit a hanging piece that not even a grandmaster noticed, so that's pretty
Exactly. Yep. Well, I think you should frame that on your wall, actually.
good. Yeah, I'm just gonna like clip that and just have it as like some masturbatory material or something in a folder tucked away.
Yep. The one you take out when you have a bad day and you really just want to quickly and efficiently, finish the job.
Oh, of course, of course.
I made a move the Grandmaster didn't see. Wow. Oh.
Daniel said he didn't see this pawn, but I saw it.
So, armed with the confidence that you can see moves the Grandmasters miss, I think people in the regular pool of players are just cowering in fear at the sight of you. So
Yeah, Balreet and the boys aren't ready.
let's fry up some Balreet meat.
All right, I'll hop in. We're on the cusp.
Omega, man. Wow, that's almost 1,000 rated player. These people are like Ludwig strength. So let's see how you handle that. Okay.
Now, what I was going to ask, since 4 knights is the most common down here, is there a line to play that's like a really good counter to it, or is it best just to stay with just the standard, the classic here?
Oh, you mean with black?
Well,
Or with
either
white?
side for 4 knight. Like, is there just a line to play that would be like a nice counter or anything?
For now, you just want to stay with the classic. I think the way you're developing is good. Now, he just made the move knight, but we'll talk a little bit about that after the game. Now, I'm worried that you're not going to find the right reply here. What is wrong with this move, knight d4?
Well, it gives him a hanging pawn over
There you
here
go.
on e5.
Okay. You see, that took you like 2 seconds to detect, which is what I
Yeah.
like the most.
A lot of it's a lot of patterns because you can immediately recognize when this knight moves, that pawn's free.
Exactly, that's pattern recognition. Like when you first start playing chess, you're like, how the fuck do these GMs see this in like 2 seconds? But now you can see the progression. You see more and more complicated stuff faster and faster. So that's really what it means to be good at chess. It's not like the logic in your mind is better necessarily, it's the pattern recognition.
Right. So that had the nice benefit of getting the knight off there as well. So at this point, I just want to keep developing normally, right?
Yeah, occupy the center, cast. I mean, whatever your heart desires here, in whatever order. Yeah, good. I would even play d4. I mean, but d3 is not, it's a solid move. I mean, you protect that pawn on e4. But if you were really ambitious, you would occupy the... Well, okay, actually your move is good because now you don't have to worry about the pawn on e4.
Yeah, so the reason I play d3, even when that's open, is because sometimes I forget my c4 bishop is hanging if it falls under attack, and the d3 protects
Makes
that.
sense. Nothing wrong with that at all.
But since my knight's there occupying it, it wasn't hanging, so there really wasn't a reason to play
Exactly,
that. But, yeah.
exactly. But that comes back to what we discussed. You want to play with an abundance of caution, and there's nothing wrong with that for now. You're not Steinitz.
Right. So in this position, do I want to develop normally and he takes on his own if he wants, or do I want to chase it away?
Let him take. I mean, we talked about the pawn structure. If he wants to move his bishop a million times to introduce an imperceptible weakness in your pawn structure, let him. Let him do it. So just keep developing, but be careful because his knight on e6 is unconventionally placed.
Yeah, that's protecting where I typically would put over there
Right,
either f4 or g5.
So you'll have to improvise and find an atypical square for your bishop, or not develop your bishop at all just yet. You have many choices here.
I typically like to develop though, so I was going to go e3 for the bishop
Okay.
to look to maybe attack on.
That's fine. Perfectly fine move. After the game, I'll show you how I would have approached that position, but it's not terribly far different from the way you have. So bishop e3 is perfectly good move. My guess is he's going to take your knight. People usually, when they develop on b4, they think they've achieved something when they can double your pawns.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, he's... okay, not yet.
Okay, so now I just want a castle.
Sure.
Still just make him take the knight if he wants it.
Yeah, let him... Remember that tension. People get anxious when they have this tension on the board, and they're tempted to resolve it. So you have... There we go. I know these players.
Yep. You and me both, man. All right, so now I have the B file freed up, which would be good for an attack at some point.
Potentially, yeah. Okay. He's attacking her knight. I like to move it.
Yeah, so now there's no real active squares to put him up here up front,
okay.
So I just need to drop him back, right?
Yeah. And again, you'll do more of this. A retreating move doesn't mean you did something wrong. You've won a pawn on e5, and now the heroes return home.
Makes sense.
And now you have to start thinking about plans. How are you going to introduce... Okay, well, no, never mind. He basically forces your hand.
Yeah, so now I take with that pawn.
Yep. He's going to take with his knight. This would be another great example of when a retreating move is actually the best move.
Yeah, so this is what I immediately saw. Now that he's relinquished control over here on this side, I can go g5 with my bishop to attack queen, right?
Yeah, but his knight's still on e6, defending that square.
Oh, right, he still has 2 on it, right?
So that bishop g5 is not a retreating move. Now, is any pawn hanging? Is he attacking a pawn?
Yeah, my c3 pawn.
Is he putting pressure on anything else here? Not attacking, but putting pressure on anything else that you maybe don't want to give up so easily.
The bishop.
Yeah, so could you defend both at the same time?
Yeah, just bringing the queen up there to d2.
Yeah, but then you don't. But you don't want to give up your bishop at all. You want to keep both bishops on the board.
So just bringing it up to protect the hanging pawn over there at d4.
But that you really don't like retreating moves, though.
Jesus
Bishop
Christ,
d2.
Yeah.
Bishop d2.
Yeah, it's dropping it down.
No, and it's good for me. This is good insight. I think you sometimes automatically, even if you want to find a move like this, your brain rejects it. You're like, yeah, bishop d2. But the reality is you disarm that knight on d5, and that bishop will freaking deliver the freaking final blow in this game. This isn't a concession of any sort, is what you need to understand.
Okay, now, so why would d2 with the queen protecting both not be the right play? Just because I don't want to give up the bishop at all?
Exactly.
Even though I'm up a pawn?
You're up a pawn, but you have what's called the 2-bishop advantage. You don't want to easily give up either bishop. That dark-squared bishop, mark my words, can become very, very strong in just a couple moves if you play this right.
Okay.
And the same principle applies here. He wants to triple your pawns by taking your bishop. You don't want to let him do that.
Yeah, so I just want to get the bishop out.
Bingo.
So I want to keep him on the same diagonal, though, right? Because then I can go hold that pawn.
And the square that you want to move it to is very protected. So if you put it on b5, it could be liable to be trapped by your opponent's pawns. So he's not playing badly here. You can see that these guys... It's not like they blunder on every move, but they also don't have any serious ideas. They make whatever move tempts them in the moment. They don't have a coherent sequence of moves they're trying to make. If you develop some sort of a plan to improve your position systematically, you have a big leg up on them.
Makes sense to me.
So, yeah. Okay, good move. He's made a good move. Now you cannot save that bishop, but it's fine. He's made a million knight moves to take that bishop. You made him work for it. That's okay.
Yeah,
and again,
by him moving that knight, that frees up my initial idea of going g5.
That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. Nice. Now you activate your bishop. You see? You retreated. Now you attack. And that bishop on b3, with its dying breaths, it's pinning that pawn on f7. Okay, now you have a great opportunity to make a general improving move that I think earlier would not have come to mind. But now you are sufficiently good enough to realize that sometimes you just have to put your pieces on better squares. And which piece in particular can access a very nice open post for itself.
Yeah, so what I was looking at the second he moved that queen there was looking at e5 for my knight, attacks the queen, and it's still looking at that pawn on f7, but it doesn't develop any of my pieces.
You have a piece that's unemployed right now. You have several of them. You have a piece that's like unemployed, and you can employ it ASAP. It's freaking knocking on the door of the employment agency. Look at that rook on f1.
Yeah, so it's still tucked behind that pawn, so just
Yeah.
giving it on the e file.
Yep, and you can see that the
Okay.
e7 square is potentially accessible to that rook. So this move like rook e1 is a move that beginners don't normally play because it's not natural to activate your rooks, but you see why this move is good, right? You put the rook on an open file. Which way do you take?
I want to take on a, well, take towards the
toward
middle,
the
right?
center,
So
toward
a
the
side.
center, exactly. It takes b3. Now you have a nice compact little pawn mass, and you can start thinking about attacking the king side, but first attend to the immediate threats. He's attacking your pawn.
Yep, c2, c3 is still hanging, pushing it up, protects
Bingo.
it, and attacks the knight.
Exactly, the best freaking move. And then you can slowly start accumulating pieces on the king side, which, by the way, is completely bare. So he thinks his king is safe behind that pawn cocoon. It's not. Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. Who does he think he is? He's asking you to win that knight.
Yeah.
So where do you put your queen?
Yeah, I can just bring the queen. Well, I can bring the queen to d2 to
Yeah.
attack that knight.
The knight has nowhere to go. He's put it right in the frickin' palm of your hand there.
So a move like that, to recognize that it's immediately trapped, like, because I didn't initially notice, I thought he still had a retreating square.
I didn't either. I just checked the retreating squares. I mean, it's not like I abracadabraed my way into this. Is b5 defended? Is d5 defended? Well, guess what genius pushed their pawn to c4? You did, so. It's like, you know, I also have to check certain things. Sometimes there's a hidden retreating square, like on a4, but that's also defended. Sorry, was that what you were going to ask? Is there some method of determining that?
Yeah, like how would I go about like finding when a piece is trapped? Because going inside of that pawn structure, I can immediately recognize is pretty ill-advised, but I wouldn't recognize right away that it's trapped with one move.
Well, that's exactly it. If it's ill-advised, then it's a precursor to being trapped. So my intuition already suggests that it's trapped, and then you brute force check it. Okay, he takes and he's down a piece.
Yeah. So, do I want to? So this gives me e7 here, since the queen now doesn't have that control. I have rook, I have bishop. What do I want to go in with?
Well, what do you think?
I was thinking bishop because it attacks rook, but what was that?
Yeah, you can do that. That's fine. Either move is fine, actually. So I'm rushing you because you don't have much time left.
Okay, and then, all right, I'll just do bishop since that's what I initially said.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I was looking at was rook because then I can attack more pawns all at once.
You can do that too, but once he moves his rook to e8, which he's going to do in about 3 seconds.
My bishop's pinned to it.
It's not pinned. You can still move your bishop away. You can actually reroute your bishop to a very nice parking spot, a long diagonal where it aims at the g7 pawn. Do you see how you can go about doing that? Where could this bishop park itself in order to aim at the king? Remember, the bishop is a long-range piece, so it doesn't have to be on the king side to attack the king side.
So we can just drop it all the way back there to a3 and then b2, but that's a 2-move combination.
That's fine. 2 move. We talked about the 3-move rule. 2 move is perfect. That's exactly what I thought.
Okay.
And then you could stack that with a queen-bishop battery. If you put the bishop on b2, where could you then put the queen to threaten checkmate?
Yeah, just bring it over there to c3.
Exactly. Bingo. You see how you're coming up with these ideas now, 2-move ideas. You're seeing where the pieces belong. That's completely different stage of chess mastery than, let me just not blunder a piece on this move.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a given now for you, that you're not really blundering pieces.
Oh, no, there's definitely still those blunders that happen, but mainly it's when I'm chasing down an idea, so at least my heart's in the right place.
Right. And you don't want to get ahead of yourself in the sense that 2-move ideas are slow. You know, they're 2 moves. So if both kings, let's say, are super exposed, and you're like, oh, let me embark on this 4-move plan, like, probably that's going to be unrealistic. But remember, you're up a piece here, so you can afford to take certain liberties in positions where, let's say, you're up a piece, or your king is very safe.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
So I don't know what the hell he's thinking about. He's probably freaking cursing his fate.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious move, though, right? Moving that rook, that's about the only thing he has.
That's the only thing you can do other than giving up the exchange. You have some 5-head ideas here that I will show you after the game in order to enrich your understanding of improving piece placement. But the fact that you found bishop a3, b2 is already telling. That's good.
I had this might be one of the 5-head things you're talking about, but I had kind of a cool idea to practice That's
there we
kind of nice. I had a cool idea to practice one of the things we talked about, which was dropping bishop to f6. He takes with pawn, which frees up the g file, which I'd come in with the queen. If he takes my queen, I win a queen anyway. But I don't know if that would really lead to a checkmate. In my head, I had something cooked up, but I guess depending on the moves he'd make, it might not work out. So the question off that would be, when would I want to chase down something like that deep?
Let me invite you to an analysis board and we'll discuss that over wine and Cabernet and Sauvignon and cheese.
Of course.
But of course, I mean, invite you to a board. Okay. One sec. Turbo. Fuck off. Okay, invited. So, to answer your question, and I'll do that in a rather roundabout manner. Now, first of all, whenever you're up material, let's say you're up a piece, you need to decide on your risk tolerance. Like, if you can avoid sacking a piece in a speculative fashion, you should, right? Because if you're up a piece, there's really no need to, as my coach would say, you're not writing a book, you're trying to win games, okay? You're not trying to, well, you are trying to impress somebody, but at the end of the day, if you're unsure about a sacrifice and you're not losing the game, then, you know, your risk tolerance in chess should be moderate, but it shouldn't be, you shouldn't go crazy. Now, concretely, the reason I would rule out a move like bishop f6 right now at this point is because you don't yet have any pieces on the king side. And by what we talked about, activating a rook via, let's say, a rook lift would take a little bit too much time. Black could bring his queen to g6, so this would be a little bit speculative. Is white much better? Is he attacking? Absolutely, but it would be hard to deliver checkmate. There's no forced mate here.
Okay, that
but
makes sense.
Let's imagine that I would actually lift up this a1 rook to the king side, which you actually can do. This was one of the 5 things I talked about. Some people look at this rook and say, this rook could never end up on the king side, but that's what makes a rook so strong. It can trampoline from one side of the board to the other in a matter of seconds. And through what square could it access the king side?
A4, baby.
Bingo. Rook a4, a6, and then rook to h4. Stream is frozen. 1 second. No, it's not. That would be an ID 10T. So rook h4. And the thing is, now you're more ready to play bishop f6 because you already have the rook on h4. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's say he plays.
Idea, but prepped.
If he plays bishop e6, I would now already consider the move. Oh my god, you have something. Wait 1 second. I'm calculating it. Boom, boom, boom. G4. If this works, it's freaking jizz-worthy. Sorry. Yep, it does actually work. So if you go bishop f6 and he takes it, it would be great if this move were checkmate, but the pesky black queen can now move to f5 and defend g6. Remember that Bobby Fischer against Benko game we looked at, where there was that rook sacrifice that intercepts one of the defenders? Do you remember what I mentioned?
I think
there's
I know
a
what you're
direct
talking about,
application here where you basically use a rook sacrifice to intercept the queen. What am I talking about?
You stop the queen from even getting there. You go rook to e5 to cut that off.
Exactly. And now you can give a nice juicy little check. What am I talking about?
Right there on g5, since it's not protected anymore.
And now you want to pile up on the h7 pawn with your queen, but you want to do that in a very careful manner while keeping the f5 square under control so that black's bishop could not go there. So what square accomplishes all of that?
Going knight to d4 to protect that square.
Again, you're forgetting about time. You've sacrificed the rook.
Too long, yeah.
You let black take. Now the queen. You need to threaten checkmate on this move. Threaten checkmate with your queen.
So it's putting a check again at f6.
You could, but that doesn't actually do anything. I'm going to give you a hint. You want to threaten checkmate on h7 with your queen. It's a unassuming little move, but it gets the job done because it just threatens checkmate on h7.
Well, bringing the queen over. Was it just bringing the queen over?
Yeah, to h5, exactly. So sometimes you have to make these moves because black has no defense. If he goes bishop f5, you take the bishop. If he goes queen e4, well, you take the queen. Black can try to run with his king, and now it's checkmate in 2 moves. Try to find it. And the first of these 2 moves is a little bit of a subtle little move to show black who's boss. Mate in 2.
Yeah, I think I see it. It's just going queen g5, first check, has to fall back.
Then he goes back. We just had this position. For some reason, you have an aversion to mating him along the H file.
Yeah, I guess I keep doing that, huh? I guess the thing I saw is just pushing him back, but then he...
Oh, congratulations.
I can't get on.
Mate in 2 moves. So you're already at the stage where you need to be seeing the checkmate when you're saying a first move. Don't try to guess your way into this, asshole.
Yeah, it's that has to start then with taking the pawn then on h7, so you deliver check there. That
King
gives
F6.
him 1 retreat square.
And then he has another retreat square, and you've let him escape. So that's why I said this first move is subtle. You have to push the king back first, and then take the pawn with checkmate. So what?
Yeah,
move?
so it's h6 first. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would actually do, and I will make you feel a little bit better. Actually, finding these types of checkmates is harder. People assume that tactics that involve checkmate are the easiest, because they end the game immediately, but they're actually the hardest. Hunting down the king is a very, very tricky little business, as we saw in that Steinitz game, right, where you had to find that one convoluted sequence. So when you're solving problems, and you can do this alone. Remember when you solved fork-related problems?
Oh, I solved a lot of those bad boys.
You're never going to forget that. I think that you should do the same thing with checkmate. I think you can mark checkmate as the objective in those tactics.
Okay.
Let me actually check that myself. Give me a second. I'm checking if you can do that. So learning, clearance, sacrifice, discovered attack, 4-move checkmate. Yeah, so you can check 4-move checkmate and advanced checkmate. And those are going to be tough. But I want you to solve like 100, 200, 2 rooks, everything that says checkmate in that giant list of themes. Mate in 1, mate in 2. I want you to check those boxes and solve 200, 300 problems on the theme of checkmate. But you see how much the fork, it was torture in the moment, but you see how quickly you're seeing these forks. Now, the same thing will happen with these 2, 3-move checkmates. You're going to start seeing them very fast.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So this would have been checkmate. So you see then the relationship between the number of pieces on a side of the board and the possibility of checkmating your opponent. Rook e5 is actually, let me see if the computer approves of this move. It does. It's the best move in the position, rook e5. So these rook sacrifices, it's, interception, chess is one of the fields in which an interception is a good thing. Tell that to Jimmy Garoppolo, but
you fucking sports, bro.
Well, being from San Francisco, I've experienced the golden age of sports in the last couple of years.
Of course.
Except the 49ers, who have lost. So, essentially, the rook lift can happen from any side of the board. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, you see how quickly you're identifying the way the position has changed. And the only other thing I wanted to point out is, again, to remind you, moves like bishop d2. Do not be afraid to bring your pieces back in order to defend crucial squares, because you're going to bring them forward again later on in the game.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I need to just work on, because I'm always bringing forward in order to stay advancing or protect in some way. But yeah, if I brought it forward there, I'd lose it, which I didn't even recognize immediately.
Right, exactly. And another thing I would consider here is actually going c4 and then bishop c3, bringing the bishop to this long diagonal, then dropping it back and stacking the queen on top of it. So that's like a GM level plan. That's like 4 moves long. Yeah. But in any case, your move rook e1 and bishop g5 are both excellent. This is like the second best move according to the computer. So you're getting better. What do you say we finish off with one more display of your mastery?
Yeah.
I was having such a good time. Thousands of subs were flying in, and then you come back. Damn. Hype is over, guys. All right.
It's all right. You didn't need them.
Put your credit cards back into your wallets. Okay. Devin Helly, what an intimidating... Okay,
going
d4.
queenside.
A rare guest at the level.
Yes, this is odd. Doesn't change the development though, right?
No.
If I remember correctly.
And knight c6 is not the best move, but it's the training wheels insofar as it comes to these other openings are still on. So this is okay.
Okay. So then would it have been better to develop the other knight first then?
Yes, it would have, because now you see the problem. See, he's putting pressure on your pawn on d5. And my hint is that you want to support this pawn with another one of your pawns.
Yeah, this is a
Queen's Gambit.
It is Queen's Gambit because he brings the queen out and then he looks to win back a piece if I take this pawn.
Right, so you don't want to take it. You want to keep that stronghold exactly. And then you want to keep developing normally. It's a little bit passive, but your bishop on c8 is a little bit locked in. But that's really a first world problem.
So now he's cutting off this check on
okay.
d4, which that wasn't really going to deliver anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So just keep developing normally. Don't be intimidated by his moves. All right, so this is a cross between a London system and a Queen's Gambit. He's playing it well, but keep developing.
Okay, so first thing I notice here is e4 is open here, but I don't get too much out of the position. Is it something I still want to think about, or do I just want to keep going where I...
First, I would finish my development. And again, you're black, so it doesn't have to be super active. As long as you castle and make your king safe, you've gotten the job done. So, and again, this speaks to something that I know you don't love to do, which is to develop your pieces in sort of a modest fashion. Where can you move your bishop on f8 to?
The e7.
Go ahead. You got to castle first. Then you'll think about how to make your position more active. Maybe you will put a knight on e4. That is a nice idea in the future. But let's first attend to the business.
So how does the Queen's Gambit typically work then? I know you play the
Okay, he just helped you. How did he help you? He's allowed you... What should he take back with?
I should take with the queen, right? Because I'm developing the queen out here.
No, but developing the queen in the opening, since when is that a good idea? He's allowed you to open up a diagonal for something else. That bishop on c8, it was blocked by the pawn on e6, but why did you play e6 in the first place? Did you play take with a fucking queen? If you would have taken with the queen, then you wouldn't have had to play e6.
You hyped it up. I thought I was looking for something big. Like you made it sound like it was a huge mistake. Like, well, if you take with the queen, there's a checkmate in only one move.
Well, I apologize for not bringing you to a state where you can win with black in 8 moves. I have sinned, Father.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you're barely a GM, I suppose. All right, so then typical move I play developing with this is going to g4,
exactly.
knight to queen, yeah.
And you're exploiting the concession he's made. So why do you take with the pawn? Also because you keep a stronghold in the center. You keep some control over the center. Okay.
So in this position, I drop it back, hold the pin. If he pushes up again...
Exactly. Then he weakens his position further.
Yeah. He also can't trap my bishop either. He's got the pawns trapped there. He has no pieces to get in the position there.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is the sort of situation when... Okay, it keeps developing. What comes to mind for you?
Well, since there's nothing hanging, there's nothing like I can really look to threaten at the moment. I was just going to keep developing pieces, so what I was looking at is getting a rook involved by bringing...
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm excited you mentioned that.
Mentioned which part were you excited about?
Rook.
I can say it
the fact you can take out that material you stored in that folder somewhere. I would take it out if I were you.
Okay.
All right, move, bitch.
So the rook move I was going to make was just bringing rook to e8, look into position to threaten on king's side.
Very nice. And another thing is you can slowly prepare to put a knight on e4. You can't put it on e4 yet because it has 2 defenders and only 1 defender on your side, the pawn on t5. But you can prepare it with a very crafty little move. That rook on e8 can potentially control the e8 to the e4 square. What's standing in its way?
My bishop.
Okay, so where could you tuck that bishop away? You actually have a brilliant tactical idea here, but we'll talk about it after the game. What can you do here to reinforce your control over that square?
And I just dropped my bishop back to f8.
Nice, and it's, again, retreating move, but it has a very clear intention, putting that knight on e4.
Yeah, which is a move that I wanted to make a little while ago, but couldn't make because of the bishops, and that frees that up.
You're also creating a threat. You have 2 pins in this position. Can you name them?
Right now, it's the pawn on e3 and the knight on f3.
So there's a pawn that you're... Okay, well, he's threatening one of your pawns, which you should defend. So, which pawn is he threatening? Come on. He's threatening not only a pawn, but he's threatening to take it with a fork.
I guess... Oh, because the bishop's still guarding it, right? I haven't moved the bishop, so he's just attacking this...
C7 pawn. So, can you defend it? You have just the piece to defend it with.
Do I want to bring the rook in to develop that? Okay.
Very nice. And then you can chase that knight away back to a6. So I was going to ask you, there is a pawn that used to be hanging which is now defended only by the knight on b5. The other two alleged defenders of that pawn are both pinned. Do you see what pawn I'm referring to? So
yeah, it's the d4 pawn.
Yeah, so if he doesn't, okay, he does. Man, this guy is pretty good. But now you can proceed with your plan. You don't even need to hurry with a move a6. What was your plan in the first place? Why did you drop your bishop back to f8?
Because I still want that e4.
Yep, go ahead. So another great thing is that his knight on b5 is kind of stranded. So you're threatening to go a6 and actually trap it on b5. Now this guy is actually playing very well for his rating, so my guess is he's going to see it, but we'll see. If he makes the correct move in this position, I will start becoming a little bit sus. But I won't name it in case he's watching the stream.
Yeah.
I will only tell you if he's made it or not once he makes it, because this move is not... Okay. The Naroditsky jinx. I present to you the Naroditsky jinx.
I love that, man. Every time you're like hyping a player up, it's such the fattest butthole.
It happens on my own stream too. Even when I'm playing GMs, I say, this guy's a god, he sees everything. Boom, blunders the queen.
I love it, man. I love that. So now in this position, now that I'm up a queen, now I just want to make those trades, right?
Yeah.
So I want to take knight with knight here.
Clear the cobwebs. Clear the freaking cobwebs.
Okay, so I'm going knight into knight over here on e5. He takes back.
And then get rid of the annoying pieces. Like chase away the pieces that are annoying you, one after the other. Which is the most annoying little thorn in your side piece?
Right now it's that knight on b5.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there.
Okay, so to chase him away, what is the better position to put it? Do I want to push my c pawn to c6?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Yeah,
okay.
Literally preference. Because if you notice, he might take that pawn on a7, but that is a very similar move to what your opponent did in the previous game. Puts the knight in a compromised location, and you can trap it with what move? And that's exactly what will happen in the game. How can you trap this knight?
No, I'm just bringing my rook over, right? It has no retreat squares anymore.
Exactly. So, game is over. Well, you will win the knight. It'll be up a queen. And this is actually, I think, a great way to round off this session because it will give you a chance to show me how great your technique has become. Okay, well, he's doing the right thing. He's taking it at least for a pawn, but, I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's still a knight for a pawn, which isn't great.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, he is cursing his fate. Oh, what an effective five-head move, tucking his bishop away. And
well, what I was looking at here is just the simplest thing that's looking me in the face is going over there to either h4 or now that he's moved the bishop, f6, and look to just go right up there into these f2 pawn.
Exactly what you want to do. Queen f6 is the best move. I was going to guide you toward it, but you find it yourself. And asking yourself how his last move has changed the position. I loved that you fit that observation in. He's moved his bishop away from controlling that square. You notice it, and then you bring your queen onto that square, which was recently controlled by one of his pieces.
Okay, now the question I had is why is f6 better than h4?
It's not really better. It's just that f6 is a little bit more of an unobtrusive square, so it's less likely you blunder your queen or it gets in the middle of things. Now, how has his move weakened his position?
Well, now he has the, well, not the full diagonal, but he's now pushed a pawn away from king's defense. He's got bishop, which is locking him in here on h2.
Okay, so I guess what comes to mind in terms of actually winning this game?
Well, the first thing I looked at was moving this knight on e4 to c3 to maybe move a rook out, but that probably isn't like a great play.
It is. That's the best move in the position, I was going to say.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Nice, c3. Because you're exposing the attack on the e3 pawn. Again, applying that principle, his last move has weakened the pawn on e3. It is now not defended by any other pawns. And actually, if he plays rook e1, you have a really nice combination. You can sacrifice temporarily a rook and crash through and win everything in return.
Yeah, is he going right through on e3 with that rook?
Exactly. And then after he takes your rook, how do you follow up? Okay, he doesn't even do that. So now he just gives you everything for free.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, where the progression comes into play. Do I want to start with this e2 check with my knight?
No, that blunders the knight to the bishop. Start
Oh,
again.
right.
Don't overthink it. Take
Yeah.
what is given to you first. Everything that's
Yeah.
free, the free pieces, pawns, take them. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you'll worry about the mates later. There's another pawn. Now, he's either going to blunder the bishop, or if he moves the bishop, there will be another pawn that you can take here. Once you get that over with, clarity arises out of the situation.
Yeah, so I just need to take care of this f4 pawn. Well, I can't, though, because the bishop's
Not the
still there,
f4
but-
pawn, but there's another pawn.
Yeah, the d4 pawn.
Exactly, take it.
Yeah.
And you can start tightening up the screws, activating your pieces, bringing them to the second rank. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then, so the next move I'd want to make here is pushing rook to e2,
Yes,
which is
exactly.
Yep, discover check, win a
Bingo,
bishop.
bingo, bingo, bingo. Even if he moves his king out of the... Okay, he doesn't. Go ahead, take. Hunt, 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 hunt.
Yeah. Okay. So it's starting to feel a lot more comfortable.
Yep, I can just tell. You're starting. Your mind is settling on the right move immediately. You don't need to like guide it like a broken compass to the right direction. Like you don't need to wind the clock. You just see the move.
Yeah, this is feeling nice right now. This has been a very productive session.
This session is like one of those, and this is what makes I think chess such a. You just can see how much better you are when you compare your performance. You can just see it. It's just obvious. So very well done. You won all the games. You're almost at 1,000, which is just unheard of heights. We're getting there. I think your real strength right now is probably a little bit over 1,000. So again, remember, when you hit a new high, ups and downs are to be expected. You are going to have a game where you blunder a piece. Am I going to my old self again? Do not worry. That is a completely natural part of growth. Like sometimes you roll up and then you roll back down a little bit, but it's not you rolling back down. It's you kind of reapportioning space in your brain for, you know, when people like have brain damage as a kid, the remaining part of their brain reapportions itself to fill the space. It like tightens itself. So the same thing happens when you learn all of these new skills. Sometimes take the place of simple things like checking for blunders. So some stupid shit is to be expected, but you know, once you get that down, you fully stabilize on the next level, and I think you just did.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a very, very laborious way of
It was
complimenting.
laborious
I like
way.
that.
Well, I don't know any other ways of compliment. I don't want you to get too full of yourself, so I have to temper it with brain damage analogies, which
Of course. Well, yeah.
you understand because they're near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, naturally they make sense to me.
Of course, yeah. Hit close to home, didn't it? So awesome. How do you feel playing these games? You feel more confident, I assume, from what you just said.
Absolutely have. These have felt significantly better. I also think after the tournament, taking a couple days off was great.
Absolutely.
Just get a little recharge and come in with fresh eyes.
Absolutely, recharging the batteries and onward to greater heights. So well done today. That was awesome. And my recommendation in the meantime, if you have the the time and the desire to torture yourself, checkmate puzzles should be your top priority right now in terms of tactics. And in terms of move order and the order in which to do things, finding more complicated plans, that's our next project. And once you get that down, you're a full-fledged club player, my friend. So paradise is on the way.
Can't wait, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to our next session.
Me too. We'll be in touch. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your night and your stream. I'll kick some subs ass because I can't go more than an hour without filling my own ego. But this was a great session. I'm legitimately pumped. So good luck solving, and me too. I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon, bro. Have a great
All right.
stream.
Have a great night, Charlie.